Since the April 2014 and up until this report here in March of 2016, Flint, Michigan residents have had to dangerously live with lead in their water system due to the intentional, reckless actions of Michigan officials. This has been for 2 years. Meanwhile, down south in the USA, in the capital city and state of Jackson, Mississippi, some of the residents there are now going through the same horror of their water being legally registered as lead toxic. This report consolidates the ongoing saga up until now, but this urgent situation hasn't been getting much mainstream news attention. So, as to fully explain the facts which have arisen, your consideration and patience are greatly appreciated.
The people of Jackson, Mississippi are facing a scary and unfortunately familiar-sounding crisis over lead found in drinking water. Children and pregnant women have been warned not to drink the water in this city of more than 170,000 people, where 30% live below the poverty line. And as Stephanie Gosk reports, there are questions about why they weren't warned sooner.
The lead warning rattled the people of Jackson. Many, like mother of three Monica Cable, worry their city is another Flint.
Just to hear that water is gone wrong in another city, in another state, and then now my own city and state, it's something that I would have never thought of.
Officials downplay the comparisons, while at the same time warning pregnant women and children under 5 not to drink the tap water for 6 months. Small children need lead testing, and everyone should avoid hot water and run the tap 2 minutes before using it. The problems began last June. 20% of homes sampled had high lead levels. 6 months later, 10% of the homes tested high. That was when the state alerted city leaders, who told the public but didn't warn pregnant women and children not to drink the water until Wednesday, nearly 8 months after the first high readings. State officials say they were following EPA guidelines.
We've done exactly what the federal requirements were for a long time.
But you've looked at those requirements, and your evaluation is they're actually not sufficient.
They're not sufficient, and we've made the change so that they will be more sufficient.
It won't be an easy fix for Jackson. The mayor says the plants need urgent upgrades, and there is a lot of lead in the aging water system, a problem facing nearly every city.
Lead lines were used all over the country, and this is going to become a national issue.
At this children's clinic, worried parents have been calling all day.
It's better to be safe than sorry, especially with the children at stake.
Monica says her church sent bottled water to Flint, but now she wonders if they should have kept it here. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, Jackson, Mississippi.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you now straight from the headquarters of the Topkats Pride is presented the unusual but factual and oftentimes controversial Wow News, featuring various international reports that will inform you and keep you in the know while you're on the go. And now, your Wow News reporter, Q. Pate. Welcome to the Wild News Report. My name is Otis Q. Pate, and I would like to thank you for joining me. I have a very important and urgent topic that I'd like to share with you all in reference to the lead that has been found now in Jackson, Mississippi. This lead found in Jackson, Mississippi is unfortunately in the water. And this first article comes from January 29th. I have 4 articles that I want to share with you, as well as a couple videos. So please, because of the urgency and the seriousness of the matter, I really would appreciate you just bearing with me, especially since this situation with lead being in the water of the people in Jackson, Mississippi, comes on the tail end of the tragedy that has been ongoing in Flint, Michigan since April 2014, when they too, the people of Flint, Michigan, found lead in their water. Well, here is an article, as I mentioned, from January 29th, 2016, and it says Jackson MSDH report lead detection in city water. This write-up has been provided by the Clarion Ledger, which is part of the USA Today network. And the author is Anna Wolf. And it says Jackson residents learned Friday, which was January 29th, 2016, that the water in some homes in the area has tested positive for lead above the recommended level. Those results came from samples gathered and tested 6 months ago. The Mississippi State Department of Health confirmed that water tests from 22% of its 58 residents sampled detected lead levels between 0.017 and 0.02, above the federal action level of 0.015. The affected areas included 13 residences in Southwest Jackson and North Jackson. What that means is the city is required to take additional compliance measures, said Jackson Director of Public Works Keisha Powell. It does not mean that the city has violated the Safe Drinking Water Act, and our water is safe. When asked where the residents are located, city spokesman Sheila Bird said she could not release the information because the health department conducted the study and would have to authorize the release. Further, Health Department spokesman Liz Charlotte said the information would have to come from the city. Yes, they seem to be confused about that. It was their report and up to them, Charlotte said in an email to the Clarion Ledger, which this report is coming from, on Friday afternoon, and that was January 29th, 2016. Powell said the city is confident the problem stems from lead plumbing in individual homes, especially older ones, and that the results do not indicate an issue with the Jackson's water system. We have every reason to believe this is home dependent, which means that it is related to the internal plumbing of the home, and that's largely because we've had 58 samples taken. Only 13 of them exceeded the actionable level, and there were homes on the same street that were sampled and did not exceed those levels, Powell said. Powell added that the city samples its source water daily. The city will conduct additional sampling of 13 homes as well as sampling of up to 100 locations. It's also required to notify all consumers of the city's water. We want people to understand how they should be flushing their internal plumbing system before using water, Powell said. These are just measures to take. Or rather, these are measures you take. Charlotte said the issue of higher than recommended levels of lead in water is not unique to Jackson. Let me read that again. Charlotte said the issue of higher than recommended levels of lead in water is not unique to Jackson. So that means that other places are also starting to have this problem, if nothing else. Moreover, it is not unusual for water systems to deal with similar issues. When the compliance test came back, there were 4 other water systems that had some similar issues, Charlotte said. Before August 2014, the Jackson's Maddox Road well system served much of South Jackson along the Mississippi 18th corridor. At that time, the city took the well system offline and the resident service was switched to surface water. Kind of reminiscent of what happened in Flint, the switching of water sources. To continue, the water samples in the health department report was taken in June, and that is in June of 2015, while the entire city was utilizing the city's surface water system. In July, the health department received the results of the testing. The same month, the city switched back on its well system, which continues to serve the area today. Though the health department conducted the study in June and received the results indicating higher than acceptable levels of lead in July, the agency did not report the information to the city until January 28th. So they waited from July, August, September, October, November, December, and until January, 6 months before they reported this to the people. All the while, unfortunately, these people unknowingly was using this lead-contaminated water. State Health Officer Dr. Mary Currier said that is because the sampling was part of a compliance test with the Environmental Protection Agency, which does not require immediate notification. The compliance period is 3 years, Currier said. We don't actually calculate whether a system is in compliance until after that period is over, Currier said. Now, let me assure you that we are going to take a look at how that's done and see if we don't need to change that. Courier and other state health officials assured that there's no evidence to suggest Jackson's residents are in harm, but Dr. Robert Cox, director of Mississippi Poison Control and professor of emergency medicine, stressed caution. Yes, this is very serious regardless of how much these officials, quote unquote, try to downplay this ongoing dilemma. Cox said the numbers are above the EPA's guidance limit and those who live in the area should be tested. There are 13 homes where they have elevated levels, and again, this is back in January 29th, but they have hundreds of homes right next door and right down the street that were never tested, Cox said. There is no safe exposure for lead. The bottom line is, for young children and pregnant women, you want the lead exposure to be 0. Sometimes 0 is not attainable, but you want to have it as close to 0 as possible. Powell said in a news conference Friday afternoon that she expects the lead levels in the water from the homes sampled Thursday and Friday to be lower than they were in June. So Thursday was January 28th. Powell explained the difference, saying, you have to understand the way these samples are taken because you want to get the highest level possible in the sample. They are told to take the sample first thing in the morning after water has been sitting for more than 6 hours. When they retest, they will take the same measures, but we want to see what those levels are in those homes at that time so that we can make sure that they're properly advised. And the reason why we send a notification to all of our customers is this is an opportunity to educate everyone on this issue. So if they have any concerns, they can take those measures, Powell said. Cox said he has talked with the health department but had not personally seen the numbers. Referencing the numbers of the health department provided, the Clarion Ledger, again, the news service providing this article, Cox said, at those levels, the biggest thing for lead that is of concern is its effect on developing children, primarily intellectual development and the brain. Cox also said the numbers were relatively low. Adding, these are nothing close to what people in Flint, Michigan are seeing right now. However, he said, I don't think you could ever say these are low levels. There's nothing to worry about. In this article, if I may say, I see a lot of contradiction and a lot of double talk. For those who are living in this area, who has families in this area, it's very important that they know to start cleaning their water with filters, with lead filters to remove the heavy metals in the water.
Dr. Courier, you said these samples were taken back in June of 2015.
That's correct.
7 months later. Why are we just not getting these results?
That's a really good question. So what happens with the EPA lead and copper rule and the way the EPA does things, and we do their work here, is that the compliance period is the 3-year period, and we don't actually calculate whether a system is in compliance until after that period is over. Now, let me assure you that we're going to take a look at how that's done and see if we don't need to change that.
I'm not sure what you just said.
I know. It is a different language, isn't it? So the compliance period is a 3-year period. There are samples that are required to be done in the summer for copper and lead because of, I'm not sure why.
So during the warm months,
I guess the bottom line is why the long delay from testing to the results that we're learning about now.
So maybe I can try to help explain. So
Step to the microphone, please.
Sorry.
So in compliance testing for the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has some rules about testing for lead and copper of all systems in the country. And if there are low levels that have been reported in the system over time, that reporting is a 3-year period. And in that 3-year period, samples are sent into the public health lab to be evaluated. These samples came in June, but samples from around the state come in different times, and some of them, or all of them, come in during that 3-year cycle. At the end of the 3-year cycle, a compliance report of all these samples is made and reported out. And when those reports were reported, the City of Jackson came up indicating that their sample had levels that the EPA mandates be reviewed.
So when did you get the results that the water samples had higher than acceptable lead levels?
I believe that was in July.
I'm sorry. We've known since July that we had higher than acceptable lead levels, and we just now told people in January. I'm just making sure we're all on the same page.
So the action levels are the level that mandates this additional education, and that's really what the action is that EPA has, is that there is additional education that must be given to homeowners, and then there must be increased monitoring for the next 6 months so that we can review the sample and see if this was transient or if it is something that's larger than that.
Were these the 13 homeowners, were they immediately notified when you got the results?
No, they were not.
Again, I guess the basic question is, why weren't they notified immediately after the health department got these results? Nobody seems to be able to answer that question.
Well, again, because this is a compliance sample that we ran. This isn't a sample where a homeowner sent us something to review and report back. This is part of a compliance sample for an entire system. In other words, for the entire City of Jackson, these 58 samples were representative of that particular system to be evaluated.
So is it not in the policy if they are irregular to notify them? That's not part of the...
It's not, and I think that's what Dr. Curry was saying is, I think it's time for us to look at that.
Now I'm going to move on to another article here, and this one is from Time Online, and this article says tap water after lead reports. Now this article comes from February 24th, and it says lead has been found in the water in some of the city's homes. The City of Jackson, Mississippi is cautioning some residents against consuming the city's drinking water after reports of elevated lead levels. The city issued a statement Wednesday, and Wednesday is February 24th, 2016, claiming that Jackson water is still safe to drink, but the pregnant women and small children who are most susceptible to lead poisoning should follow Mississippi State Department of Health recommendations for prevention of lead exposure out of an abundance of caution. The recommendations include using filters to remove lead at the tap and using bottled water for drinking and cooking instead of tap water. And also, let me add, do not boil the water thinking that you can clean the water, because boiling water with lead in it just makes the water more toxic. A random sampling of 100 homes in January 2016 found that 11 of them had lead levels above 15 parts per billion, which is supposed to trigger federal action. However, the city has said that its water accrues lead as it travels through service lines or plumbing, not at its source or in water treatment plants. Homes built before 1988 are especially susceptible to lead-contaminated water. It also said it will submit a corrosion control study and water treatment optimization plan to the director of the MSDH Bureau of Public Water Supply. In January, state officials said they believe the lead contamination in Jackson, which comes on the heels of the ongoing water crisis in Flint, Michigan, were not systematic and did not violate the Safe Drinking Water Act. Again, this article is from Time. Now on to the third article that I must share. Again, this is a very, very serious ongoing problem, and now that this has happened twice in the United States, I think that there's a pattern here, and we have to be very particular. This article here comes to us from NBC News. It's from February 25th, 2016. It says here, lead warnings issued for pregnant women, kids in Jackson, Mississippi. This short article says Mississippi authorities warned Wednesday, which is February 24th, that pregnant women and young children in the city of Jackson should not drink unfiltered tap water because high levels of lead have been found. So if you notice here, with the dates starting from January 29th, 2016 with the first article, and moving up here to this article from February 2016, you can see how the language has changed as far as the urgency that's being reported by the mainstream media. Moreover, officials in the city of 173,000 took pains to downplay any comparisons to the poisoning crisis in Flint, Michigan, which went undetected for many months, triggered a state of emergency, and put a national spotlight on water safety. And we're not just like Flint, said Sheila Bird, a spokesman for Jackson's mayor. However, in Jackson, of 100 homes tested last month, which would have been January 2016, 11 had lead levels higher than 15 parts per billion, the point at which federal regulators say action must be taken. And we just saw that in the last article. However, federal action has not been taken. 58 of those homes had actually been tested previously back in June, but the state health department didn't analyze the results and tell the city some were well above the action level until January. Nobody flagged it, health department spokeswoman Liz Charlotte told NBC News. Now we're going to be looking at them on a weekly basis. It goes on to say her agency issued a set of precautions that will stay in effect for 6 months while the city takes steps to stop its water from corroding pipes and leaching lead into the system. She said recommendations were made out of abundance of caution or were not mandated by the Centers for Disease Control and Environmental Protection Agency. We have not seen any elevated blood levels in our children, Charlotte said. Nevertheless, expectant mothers and children aged 5 and younger are being told to stick to bottled or filtered water for drinking and cooking. And households were instructed not to use hot water for drinking or cooking and to run their cold water taps for 1 to 2 minutes to reduce possible lead levels. The state said its WIC program would provide bottled water and ready-to-feed baby formula to families below the poverty line. City Council member DeKeither Stamps said that since the lead levels were disclosed, he has been pushing Jackson to declare a state of emergency to get help evaluating the scope of the problem, provide bottled water and filters, and help homeowners remove lead from their plumbing. I'm trying to ring the bell that we have issues here as well, Stamps said. He also said that 2 weeks ago, students from Tougaloo College loaded up an 18-wheeler with water for Flint. I could have given them the names of some people in South Jackson who need it, he said. Of the 58 homes tested in June, 13 had lead higher than 15 parts per billion, topping off at 128 parts per billion. In the second round of testing in January, all but 2 of 13 dropped below the action level. It's unclear why they dropped, but the state said the water source for some of the homes had changed in the interim. 9 new homes in the second round were found to be above the action level, though none were higher than 16 parts per billion, Charlotte said. The state wants to see Jackson improve its corrosion control so its water chemistry is consistent. It's not an easy fix, Charlotte said. In the meantime, officials are recommending all children age 6 and under get tested for lead. Experts agree there is no safe level of lead exposure.
Back in June of 2015, the state health department conducted sample testing on 58 homes. Of the 58 homes, 13 of those homes were found, of course, to have actionable levels of lead that were above what would have been recommended by the EPA. We were notified of this, these actionable levels at these homes not until January. And as a matter of fact, we were not notified about them until January 28th. And to be more specific, January 28th at 11:50 a.m. When we were notified, we immediately dispatched teams to those particular homes that were identified. We immediately started to initiate protocols that are set forth by both the health department as well as the EPA when we have issues of this magnitude. The state epidemiologist issued recommendations as a special precaution for young children and pregnant women. The other thing I want to make sure that I point out is the fact that the State Department also says that they will closely monitor the City of Jackson's progress to reduce the corrosiveness of water. I want to make sure that I'm especially clear. Between January 28th and now, the city has initiated the necessary protocols and have seen the things that we believe, according to those protocols, should put us in the right place as it relates to what we're doing, and that data should prove that. We are confident that had we received this information prior to January 28th, that we could have started those same protocols. You have seen movement by the city council to initiate legislation that would make it incumbent upon the city to start doing that more often. So the city is not only being proactive in terms of policy, but also legislation, legislatively as well. Not only in policy, but also in practice. I think that if anything needs to be said, it needs to be said that we have not received any notification that the City of Jackson's water system is unsafe. And we are, again, making sure that we express to you that we have been initiating these protocols since January 28th, the moment we received notice from the State Department.
What a touching speech, Mr. Mayor. Although we'd like to still know why the 20% of families whose lead level was above what's considered safe by the EPA and the MSDH, which is for the Mississippi State Department of Health, why weren't they ever told that their water was unsafe for use and consumption? We also liked some answers on why did it take almost 8 months or 7.5 months for your office to be notified about the toxic lead problem found in residents' plumbing and tap water.
The lead warning rattled the people of Jackson. Many, like mother of three Monica Cable, worry their city is another Flint.
Just to hear that water is gone wrong in another city, in another state, and then now my own city and state, it's something that I would have never thought of.
Officials downplay the comparisons while at the same time warning pregnant women and children under 5 not to drink the tap water for 6 months. Small children need lead testing, and everyone should avoid hot water and run the tap 2 minutes before using it. The problems began last June. 20% of homes sampled had high lead levels. 6 months later, 10% of the homes tested high. That was when the state alerted city leaders, who told the public but didn't warn pregnant women and children not to drink the water until Wednesday, nearly 8 months after the first high readings. State officials say they were following EPA guidelines.
We've done exactly what the federal requirements were for a long time.
But you've looked at those requirements, and your evaluation is they're actually not sufficient.
They're not sufficient, and we've made the change so that they will be more sufficient.
It won't be an easy fix for Jackson. The mayor says the plants need urgent upgrades, and there is a lot of lead in the aging water system, a problem facing nearly every city.
Lead lines were used all over the country, and this is going to become a national issue.
At this children's clinic, worried parents have been calling all day.
It's better to be safe than sorry, especially with the children at stake.
Monica says her church sent bottled water to Flint, but now she wonders if they should have kept it here. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, Jackson, Mississippi.
So here we go again with the lead and the deteriorating infrastructure of the United States. For solutions, I would like to say that all those that are in Jackson or in the future that may come up with the lead problem, some solutions would be, whenever you suspect that you have been exposed to lead, or your children or your friends or family, be encouraged to go as soon as possible to get your blood level checked, and tell them at the doctor that you are suspicious or you suspect that you might have been exposed to lead, and let them know, whether that be by drinking it or by paint or whatever means that you ingest or get lead into your system. Let them know how that happened. Number 2, get a heavy metal detox procedure done called a chelation detoxification. And this chelation detoxification is for the removal of heavy metals from the body. This procedure can be done without having to go to the doctor, but I can only tell you legally what I would do. What I would do is buy the proper chelation system, the most highly recommended one, in order to remove the lead from my body as well as from my family members. I would do it myself, actually, instead of having to go to the doctor, because it'd probably be expensive. You probably have to wait a lot longer than you should, because when you have lead in your body, time is of the essence to remove it before damage is done that cannot be reversed. Number 3, do not boil the water, and do not make the water hot or warm if you have to use it to drink or to bathe in or what have you, to even give to your pets, and or to put in a fish bowl. Everything that has to do with using the water, you have to be very, very careful with and very conscious of your actions when you're doing this. Or should I say, at least this is what I recommend and what I would do. Number 4, make sure heavy metal filters are, especially for lead removal, for the level of lead reported in the water. In other words, just get a heavy duty lead removal system for the tap, whether that's in the kitchen, in the bathroom, wherever you find necessary. Get a heavy duty lead removal system. Make sure that the filter is up to the job that needs to be done, because if you have too much lead in your water that outweighs the filter's capability, then the filter's not going to help you, because the lead is still going to leach or seep into your water. Well, again, please pass this information on. It has not been reported widely in the mainstream media. I'm pretty sure you haven't heard about this, and if you have, well, thank you for joining me, as well as I hope that you've been telling your friends and family and encouraging them to pass this information on, so that other people may know about it and keep their family and themselves safe. I appreciate you joining me. My name is Otis Q. Pate, and I would like to ask you to join me for the next report. And until then, take care. This has been a Topkats Radio Connection Entertainment production.